Okay. All righty. Go to it, Kathy. You can introduce yourself and let people know what's going on.
So, hello, everyone. Thank you for joining today. My name is Kathy Placencia. I am the Director of Elections for the Rhode Island Department of State. And today we will go through an overview of how to complete a voter registration form. And we will also go over the online version of completing a voter registration form. I do want to take some time to thank all of you for being here and for all that you do in registering voters and basically disseminating information about registration and the importance of voting. That's very important, and it takes a village, and you guys are part of that village in helping with elections and democracy. So thank you very much for all that you do. So I think that I have to be able to share the screen, and let me see if I'm capable of doing that.
If not, I'll make you the host.
Yeah, so I just requested for you to be able to share the
Yep.
screen.
Okay, all yours.
Okay. So let's see. And are you able to hear me?
Yep.
Okay,
I
perfect. All right. The first time I did this, I forgot to share the sound also. So
he said like
um
so. It sounds good to me.
all right, so what you have here is the voter registration form. And this is the voter registration form is created by the State Board of Elections. So generally, what we ask for a voter to complete is to make sure you check off all of the boxes that you need to check off. If this is a new form, if this is for a new voter or they're updating their information, or this is just a party change, we ask that you check one of the above. It is not necessary. It's not a requisite in order to proceed with the voter registration form. This is just so that the boards of canvassers who are processing the registrations maybe have some idea if this is a new voter or if they're currently in the system. However, they do check statewide anyhow. So again, it's not a requisite of the form. What is required is to make sure that voters are checking out whether they're checking yes for these three categories. They're yes for us, they're United States citizen, yes, they are a resident of Rhode Island, and yes, they are 16 years old. If they check no for any of these, then they're not eligible to register to vote. If they want to continue completing the form, they may very well do so. It will be forwarded to the Board of Canvassers, and the Board of Canvassers cannot process the registration. And I believe that the voter is informed that their registration is not valid or they're not eligible to vote or to register. So that is with these three, they do have to have these checked off. Otherwise, they cannot continue with the registration or they will not be processed over at the Board of Canvassers. Next, you have this box here with the personal information. The voter wants to complete their last name. If they have a suffix, again, it's not necessary, but if they have a suffix, they go by junior or the third, they can fill that information out there. First name, and middle initial or full middle name, however they want to register to vote. This is how it's going to appear for public record. They must include their date of birth, and phone number or email are optional. It is not necessary, but it is optional, and it's a form for the boards of canvassers to contact the voter if they have any questions on their registration. Here, you can check off whether the voter has a Rhode Island driver's license or state ID. They must provide one of the following or their last four digits of their social. If they do not have a Rhode Island driver's license or state ID, they can check off this box here. Again, they will have to provide identification at the polls at the time of voting. Here, they will provide their home address. A PO box is not a home address. They have to provide their physical residence address. If they want to provide a PO box, they can put that down in the mailing address section. That's where they can add the PO box. But they need a home address, a residence address in the state of Rhode Island in order to register to vote. Again, mailing address, if they have a different address other than the residence address that they'd like to receive their mail, they can include that here in the mailing address. One thing I do want to mention is if you ever register someone who says that they are homeless, they can be registered to vote. We do, the law, the law states that they are eligible to vote, and a person who is homeless can register from the city or town they are homeless in. So if they sleep at a park bench in Providence, they can register from the Providence Board of Canvassers. If that address is also listed here, so at the bottom, on the back of the form, it does list all of the addresses for every Board of Canvassers in Rhode Island. There's 39 of them, so they can register from the city or town hall for which they are homeless in, okay? So they can add that to the home address here. And the Board of Canvassers knows that they have to register this person. And I know that they're registering from city or town hall, but they are eligible to vote. Okay. Next is their party affiliation. They must choose one, Democrat, Republican, unaffiliated, or other. There is no other recognized party in Rhode Island. So that just essentially becomes unaffiliated. If they don't choose a party, that's fine. State law says that if the person does not choose a party on their application, that they will be registered as unaffiliated. So then at another time, if they want to choose a party, they are eligible to do so. Okay. And then making sure that they sign the form. They have to sign the form in order for this form to be processed. Otherwise, it will be rejected and the voter will be notified that they need to sign the form. And it will be returned to their home address. And of course, dating it. And that's pretty much it. If they are interested in being a poll worker, they can check this off at the bottom. And then you would return this over to the Board of Canvassers in which they are registering to vote from, in the city or town for which they're registering to vote from. Does anyone have any questions on the voter registration form?
I do, Kathy.
Okay.
One of the things that I come across is some folks with Spanish names that are 3 names long. And I always get confused as to what to tell these people when they ask me where they should put what. So can you give me a little?
Yeah, so if a person has 3 last names or if they have a hyphenated last name, they can put that under the last name section. And then if the first name is, Maria, and I'm just using that as an example, if it's Maria Sosa Losa or whatever it is, then they would place the Sosa Losa under the last name and then Maria the first name. And in some cases, with Spanish last names, there may be 2 names. So it could be, Maria, and they can place Maria in the first name and then Maria and for the middle name.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, thanks.
Okay.
Thanks a
Mhm.
lot.
Of course.
Turnaround time for this, once it goes to the Board of Elections, how long do they wait to be notified?
So if you are just putting these in the mail and sending them over to the Board of Elections, then the Board of Elections will separate these out and send them over to the boards of canvassers. Usually within 2 weeks, they are processed and a voter receives a letter that they are registered to vote. Again, it depends on how soon they receive them. Right now, we don't have any elections going on, so all the boards of canvassers are pretty much caught up on registration, so it shouldn't be it shouldn't be long till they receive the registration from processing.
Thanks. Thank you.
Mhm. Yeah, of course. Any other questions?
Yes, I have one.
Mhm.
My legal name, last name is hyphenated.
Mhm.
And I don't understand why it is that most government agencies do not recognize hyphens. That's my legal name.
Mhm.
And I went through this when I lived in Ohio because Ohio would kick me out of the voter registration rolls because I had a hyphen.
Yeah.
And it's ridiculous. That's my legal name. If you look at
Mhm.
my marriage certificate, that's it. And I don't understand the rationale for eliminating hyphens. I don't get it.
Yeah, I think that I think, I know that we are able to put hyphens in in our system. I know
Okay.
that with if you are registering through the Division of Motor Vehicles, they no longer recognize hyphens. And I
Yeah, I
think,
know. Then that's the
yeah.
way I registered. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you can go back into the portal, and I'll show you the portal and add that hyphen if you wanted to. However, anytime you make a change through the Division of Motor Vehicles, that hyphen will be removed because they're no longer recognizing special characters, and the hyphen is considered a special character because they're just trying to make everything uniform so that the special character is not, creating additional data. I think that that's the reason why.
Well,
Um,
but if they're a state agency, why would there be a difference between that and registering like we're showing here? I mean, that
um,
makes no sense. That makes absolutely no sense.
so their system is different than our system. We use a central voter registration system. The Division of Motor Vehicles uses a different system. So I can't speak on the type of system that they use I know our system, so I can't speak on the type of system that they use and what the rationale is behind the special characters. But eventually that may be uniform. I'm just not sure. I know that from our end, we can register with a hyphen.
And hi
That's
everyone.
good. That's good to know. But also, it's a federal issue. It's the same kind of stuff.
Yeah, hi everyone.
When you apply for a visa, okay, or a passport, this becomes an issue again. You know,
Yeah,
And Greg can speak to that a little bit.
yeah. I mean,
yeah.
I think it's just with like the round DMV and like you just mentioned is they have certain guidelines they're getting federally with this data, and that could be coming down from whatever federal requirements they have to meet for this standardization. I see if you're like you said with the visa, if it's not on there with the visa, and then it's not on there with the license, I'm assuming that federal guidelines coming down, especially with the real ID, are making them not have that on there.
Well, I just think it's ridiculous. Okay, it's not like uh, we've never had hyphenated names, and that's true for Hispanics. Hispanics have always had hyphenated names. I come from Florida. Trust me, it's always been hyphenated. So why all of a sudden the federal and state governments decided to get rid of hyphens makes no sense whatsoever.
It
It's
might,
your legal name.
it
And we
might
have
be,
to jump through hoops when we have hyphenated names to deal with, oh, well, this system doesn't do this and whatever, and still have to deal with IDs, particularly when you're traveling abroad. I mean, it's really horrendous.
all
You
I
have
can
to deal
say,
with that.
yeah, the only thing I can say to you, Nancy, I have no clue about any of this, but I will say the word computer sometimes comes into the whole thing. I
Well, I
think
know, but you
computers,
would think it would be easier, not more difficult with a
no,
computer.
no, it's always harder.
Yeah. Okay. I know.
Thanks.
All right, so now that we've moved on from the paper form, I am going to show you how to register to vote using the online portal. So this is what we call our VIC system, which is your voter information center. And here if a person is already registered to vote, they can view and update their record. They can register to vote. They can also find, view a sample ballot, or find their polling location, find their elected officials, and any publications and forms that we have, we download them onto our website. I will say that there is plenty of information on our website. So if you have any questions on anything, I can guarantee that it is on our website, or you're more than welcome to give us a call. And on this, because this is a test site, you're not able to see, but you can also apply for, actually it's hidden, because we have no elections at this time, but you can also apply for mail ballot using the online portal. And the way that you would do that is that you would add your license number and your name, the way that you're registered to vote, and you can just simply click a few buttons, put in your address, apply for the elections that you're eligible for, and you'll receive, the next step is receiving a ballot to your home or your designated location. All right, so here, if a person wanted to register to vote, again, we suggest that the person registers themselves and you're not completing the form, because they are attesting to some information on here. You don't want to be responsible for completing their attestation, okay? So again, in order for a voter to continue, they will have to check off that they're a citizen of Rhode Island, a citizen and a resident of Rhode Island, that they are at least 16 years of age. They are not incarcerated in a correctional facility upon a felony conviction, and that they're not presently judged mentally incompetent to vote by a court of law. Okay. And once they check those 4 boxes, they'll click continue. They'll enter in their driver's license number. And again, this is a phony driver's license number. And they'll enter in the first name the way that it matches on your driver's license. So remember, because you're registering using your your driver's license or state ID, that information has to match your DMV records. Otherwise, it's not going to find you.
So that means no hyphens.
That means no hyphens.
Okay.
All right. But if you are, now that you're registered to vote, you can go in and make a change to your voter registration and add the hyphen. So if you want to make a change, you'll go in and just do a name change and add the hyphen to your last name. And I believe it will let you. And if that does not let you, then you can always complete the paper form and add the hyphen to your last name. All right. So I hope that this works. It worked for me earlier today. Again, the license number, last 4 digits of your social, your name as it's written on your driver's license, and your date of birth. Phone number and email address, these are optionals. It's not an obligation to register to vote. Just know that this will become a matter of public record, okay? So let's see. Is it not? Yeah, it's a driver's license number. So I am going to just give me 1 second. I'm just looking into our system, so I didn't want to share that screen because I'm looking at voter information. So it's letting me do it this way. All right, so as you can see, because I didn't place the I am under the first name, it didn't recognize it as being a registered, the license number did not match what was on file with the first name. So it didn't allow me to continue, but as soon as I entered the I am, it found the voter registration, or it found the license number, it matched it with the, with our demo number, and it found a match, so now I can continue with my voter registration. So it is important that if a voter is registering to vote on using the online portal, that you let them know that they need to enter in the information the way that it is written in their license. Otherwise, it's not going to find a match and they're not going to be able to register to vote. Okay? So they will, I am actually going to register them from our address. If they wanted to provide a mailing address, they can do so here. If they have a previous address, whether it's an out-of-state address or a previous address in Rhode Island, they can enter that information here. Click next. Let's see. And this is our test site, just so you know. So it might be, that may be why it's giving me a little bit of trouble. Hmm. What address can I use? This also is auto-populated with your city or town. And so that may be the reason why it's not working for this. Oh, there it is. And for this, I will register as unaffiliated. Click next. And you get to review your information. I am Sample is my first name. I'm registered as unaffiliated, my date of birth, contact information, and my home address. Again, if I see that I've made a mistake with any of this information, I can just go back and edit the information, and it'll bring me right to that section. I also am asked if I'm interested in being a poll worker, so I can click yes or no. If I wanted to add my telephone number for the Board of Canvassers to contact me regarding my registration for any reason, then I can just enter in my phone number or email address. And here, again, I'm attesting that I am the person that completed this form, and that all the information is true, and that I am authorizing the state of Rhode Island to gather my signature. So what they do is, what this does is, because I'm adding my license number, I'm registering to vote, it pulls my signature from the Division of Motor Vehicles. So however I sign for my license, that's the signature that's going to be on file for my voter registration. Click next, and now I am Sample as a registered voter. Any questions?
You said that some of that entering the phone number was public, then becomes public information. What did you mean by that?
So if any person that registers to vote, all of this information will become public information or is public information. So what happens is that some agencies do buy a voter file. So any of this information, such as your name, address, and date of birth and party affiliation, it becomes a matter of public record. So again, we have agencies or legislators that do purchase a voter file that will contain that information. And if you provide a telephone number or an email address, that information is included in there. Does that answer your question?
It does. Is there any way for an individual to opt out of having that information made public?
It's not, no, there isn't,
Okay,
unfortunately.
thank you.
Mhm. Any other questions?
Kathy, I have a question.
Yeah,
We've run into this before. It's close to an election, say a
Mhm.
couple weeks away.
Mhm.
And somebody comes up to register and they say, oh, I just moved here from Massachusetts. Can I vote in this election? And they're not registered in the state. They don't have a state driver's license. You know, is it possible for them to vote?
they have to be registered 30 days before an election in order to be eligible. We do have one of the longest voter registration deadlines in the nation. But unfortunately here in Rhode Island, it is that 30-day deadline, so they have to be registered for 30 days before they're eligible.
Okay, so when someone moves, they need to take care of that
Mhm.
changing of driver's license. What if the address on your driver's license doesn't match where you live now?
So it doesn't match that. They do need to have, if they were moving from one state to another and they registered to vote on time, however, they did not have time to change over their license. They're not able to use that license. They have to use an in-state license in order to vote. Or they can use a passport, or there are many other forms of ID that they can use. And we do have a list available. But if the license number, if they were moving from one city to another, or they move from one address to another and they're showing that Rhode Island state ID or license, it does not have to match, because what they're doing at the polls is ensuring that Etta is who she says she is, and they're just matching your name and date of birth.
Okay, great. That's helpful because we sometimes have that come up.
So I
That
recently changed my address for my license, and it was just go online and change your address, and that was it. From Rhode Island to Rhode Island, but
Yeah.
and of course your license indicates which town you're voting in and which district you're voting in. So you want to determine that, but you don't necessarily have to have the address on your license, because you don't get a new license just because you changed the address.
Right.
But you can print off the change of address form that you did through the license.
Yeah, and my suggestion is that if you want to make sure that you're registered to vote from your new address, is if you're looking up voter information, I wouldn't go into find my polling place, because what that's going to do is prompt you to just enter in an address. It doesn't necessarily mean that you've updated your registration. So in order to verify that you're registered to vote from your current address, I would go into view and update my record.
Okay, very good.
Okay.
Thank you.
And Jackie, you had a question?
Yeah, well, I was just going to say that I was one of those people who I moved from out of state to Connecticut years and years ago, like a week before the presidential election. And while I couldn't vote for Connecticut, I was able to vote at the federal level for
Yes.
stuff, at minimum for president. And that at least made me feel better. So just something I'm assuming it's the same thing here.
It's the same thing in Rhode Island. If you are not registered to vote or you've missed that deadline, you can, and this is for presidential elections only, you
Right.
can register to vote at a designated location in the city or town which you live in, and vote for president and vice president, and that will register you for future elections. So you have to complete a voter registration form, and then you're given your ballot for president and vice president, and you would insert that ballot into the voting machine. And then your registration is processed by the local board of canvassers after the election.
And can you also just confirm that for most of us, the only signature we have on file is on our license, and if that does not match the signature on our mail-in ballot, that could create problems and our ballot might not be accepted?
Yeah, so it's not just your ballot. So the signature verification piece comes into play when you're applying for a mail ballot. So if you apply using the online system, you've already identified yourself by
Mhm.
providing your PII information, which is your driver's license or your state ID. So you've already verified that information. But if you're filling out a paper application, that signature, when they're processing that application, that signature that's on the application has to match what's in the central voter registration system. And if you haven't updated your signature and the signatures don't match, then that application could be rejected. Now, that voter is notified that that the application was rejected, and it gives you the reason why it was rejected. So you still have an opportunity to apply and update your signature. However, you just want to make sure that your signatures are matching. And I know that, that changes from, I wouldn't be able to tell you my signature because
Right.
I'm no doctor, but I sign like one.
Exactly.
So, you just want to make sure that you are, that your signature is matching. And then on the other end, once the State Board of Elections receives your voted ballot, there is a ballot certificate that you have to sign. So then they're also matching that ballot certificate on their end to the signature that's on file. So there's 2 points of signature verification: one to receive your ballot, and one when you vote your ballot and it's received by the State Board of Elections. They're also doing a signature match to ensure that that it's you that voted that ballot, and that you signed that ballot certificate. And if that doesn't match on that end, then you do have an opportunity to cure that ballot. So you will get notified that your ballot was deficient, and the reason why it was. And again, you have an opportunity to cure that. Any other questions?
I just have a quick one, Kathy. Has nothing to do directly with the ballot except for the poll worker question. We
Mhm.
had a discussion in our group last month, and people are interested, but they feel like the 12-hour day is a killer. Can that ever be changed?
I think that that's talked about more and more, within communities, having shifts. I don't know how larger, I think it's ideal in a small community where you can manage that. It's not ideal in a larger community. And I'm speaking from my own experience. If, I worked in Providence for many years, and I had to hire over 500 polling officials to work on an election. So for me to have to hire double that and manage, poll workers or polling officials coming in and out, and who's going where, and who's, and if anyone calls out, having to manage that, I'm doubling, I'm doubling my employees. And in reality, it's one person managing that, and that person would be me.
Oh,
So I wouldn't, I don't, that would be just a logistical nightmare. But smaller communities, I think that it would work great. I don't know how, I know that there have been talks about that, and I can definitely keep you posted if that's something that people are really interested in and working, because I do agree with you. It's a long day.
yeah, I think it would be good if you kept us in the loop on that, because we have people that are willing to do it, but not for that length of time. It's just too much.
Okay. All right, I'll definitely keep you in the loop with that. If anything changes, or if there's a certain community that wants to pilot that, and you want to share, I'll definitely communicate that with you.
Great, thank you.
That'd
Thank
be
Yeah, of
great.
course.
Thanks.
Any other questions? No, you all had some really good questions.
Well, thank you, Kathy, for doing this for us. This was great. It's going to be it's recorded, so we'll be able to look back if we have another question or if we need to refresh ourselves. And I thank you so much for taking the time with us. We appreciate
course.
it very much.
Of course, anytime. And if you have any other questions, feel free to reach out. Christine, you have my email address, so feel free to share with everyone. Don't be shy to ask questions. And we're here to help and definitely want to help you because you're helping us.
Thanks. We will. We'll keep in touch. We love you guys.
Yeah.
Sounds
Thank you,
good.
Kathy.
Thank you all.
Very
Have a great night.
You too.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Oh.